Every day is so wonderful. Then suddenly, it's hard to breathe. That's the beginning of that song. Anyone ever wake up one morning and it's just this beautiful day, and then within moments you can't breathe? All of a sudden you think about, I love it, it's all the kids are raising their hands. Why? Because you suddenly have to go to school? I get it. It's like, what a beautiful day. Oh, it's a school day. So, I think it happens, and for me, that's just when I forget who I am. When I suddenly forget, all of a sudden, I'm choked. I'm squished. I'm squashed. I'm constricted. Now and then, I get insecure from all the pain, and I'm so ashamed. And what we're really talking about there, what she's really talking about there, and Maddie, thank you. You sang that so authentically and just so honestly, and just touches me when I can remember back to when I had nothing other than that authentic voice, just speaking and singing, and I didn't know anything else but that. I am beautiful no matter what they say. Words can't bring me down. And I just loved that Maddie paid no attention when Loser showed up. Did you notice that? She just, there was not like some like, oh, that word. No, it was just like, words can't bring me down, period. Doesn't matter what you say about me. I am beautiful in every single way. Yes, words can't bring me down, so don't you bring me down today. I think that if we were to take our minds and somehow separate ourselves from what we think, and remember that we are not our thoughts, we are the thinker, we are the energy back of what's being thought, and actually look at our thoughts in such an impersonal way, that we would really start to understand what it is we're doing with our minds and stop just living from what we're doing with our minds and stop just reacting to what we're thinking, but actually go, oh my God, OMG, I just thought that. As opposed to, I think it and then I live from it. Like if you were to think of yourself as a loser. Has anyone here ever lost at anything? Okay, so that means you're a loser, right? No, it means you played the game. It means you stepped in there. It means you actually went for it. Win, lose, doesn't matter. What was the experience? But we do get caught up with these titles. We do get caught up with loser, geek, sissy boy, whatever those things all said. I am beautiful. I am beautiful every single way. Yes, words can't bring me down, so don't you bring me down today. And then that one lyric, thank you. Oh, I'll never make it through this talk. And I love the lyric, and tomorrow we might wake on the other side. Now, I question that a little bit. Tomorrow we might, first of all, there's no might. No one in this room has to worry that they might not get there, because that's just not the case. Because right where you are right now, there is no other side to get to. This is it. You are it. If all things are God, if everything is God, God is everywhere. I learned that as a toddler. God is everywhere, then God is everything that's going on. So, we might wake on the other side. I get what that means. Tomorrow, and I don't want to wait till tomorrow. In this moment, tomorrow is the next moment for me. That's tomorrow. In the next moment, in this moment right here, right now, I can decide to flip over that card, right? There you go, there we go. From loser to beautiful. There you go. From worst to first, the baseball reference. From worst to first, what does it take, Doug said? What does it take? Nothing. It takes the shift in a thought. And here's the thing, it's not about the thoughts, really. It's about the belief behind the thought. It's about the belief that creates the thoughts in your head. You have certain beliefs. You believe things about yourself. Like Noah is sitting there with awkward. You can turn it over if you want and leave it at beautiful. Because you are. Awkward. If you walk around with a belief that you're awkward, your entire life is based on living from awkward. Who wants to live from awkward? Who wants to live from loser? Who wants to live from challenged? Who wants to live from life is difficult? Who wants to live from there's not enough? Who wants to live from I'm too old? Who wants to live from anything other than I am? And then put after it whatever works for you. So, all month we've been dealing with love only. And my challenge to myself this month was to literally live from that place of love only. And in every instance, remind myself, is this loving? Is what I'm doing right now loving? Is this loving? Am I loving only? So, I know how I did. How did you do? How was it for you? For those of you that remembered to do it this month. What's it like to live this teaching? What's it like to love only? Was it challenging? It was challenging for me at times. And sometimes I didn't even realize that I wasn't loving. I was just doing what I do, and then I suddenly caught myself. I was like, oh my God, this last hour, was that love only, or was that stress everywhere? And how many bodies did you leave in your wake during it? Not many. But I would go back and then talk to anyone that I might have shortchanged or spoken shortly to. Love only. We have lives that we live based on habits we've created, and those habits are driving the show, driving our car. Someone wrote on CPR this morning, they said, oh, I went unconscious yesterday and my old habits took over and brought me down. How often do your old habits take over and bring you down? And I love this. Words don't bring me down. No, you know what? Words don't bring me down. They actually don't. Words don't bring me down. My relationship to the word brings me down. And not even my relationship to the word brings me down. What brings me down is my belief about the word and my willingness to accept the word as who I am when it's not who I am. The title of my talk today is Born to Love. Born to Love. How many of you know the story of the lion cub named Christian? How many of you saw that YouTube video? So that's like maybe an eighth or a tenth of this room. I'm going to tell you this story, and then you are going to go home, I'm sure, and look up Christian the lion. Christian the lion, and you'll find YouTube. You'll find the videos on it. There was a little cub named Christian. It weighed 35 pounds, and it was in a department store in London. And it was in a cage, a tiny little cage. And these two Australian gentlemen, who were in their 20s at the time, saw this beautiful little lion cub in a cage, and they were freaked out that this cub was in a cage. So they offered to buy the cub in the cage. And I love that. It's like, really? You can go to a department store and buy a lion in a cage. But they bought this little cub, and they took it home, and they started to raise it. But of course, within a year, this 35-pound cub turned into a 190-pound lion. And it only took about a year. And so they were trying to keep it and trying to raise it and giving it space to grow and space to be who it was. And they then realized they had to take it back to Africa. And they wanted to take it back and reintroduce it into the wild. So they did. They took it back to Africa and they reintroduced it into the wild. A year later, they came back to Africa wanting to see how Christian was doing. And for those of you that have seen the YouTube video, I'm sure you all know you started crying right about this moment on the video, and then you had to watch it again because you missed half of it because your eyes were so full with tears. So they go back, and the wildlife people that they were working with said, you cannot go into the wild to see this. We'll drive by, but you can't go in. You can't go near it. He is now the head of his own pride. He has a wife, and he has children, and he has a lot of lions around him. And you don't know them. So you can't go there. You can't go out, but we can try to look. Well, they said no. They said absolutely not. When we find him, we will get out and we will go say hello. And, they were Australians, so there was no saying no to them. Australians are just Americans with an accent. So we're all renegades. So they go out, and it was very tedious trying to find this lion, Christian. And they did. They found him. And when they found Christian, they got out of the car. And they kept telling them, you can't do this, you can't do this. But they got out anyway. And that's really where you see the video. Those of us that have seen the video, you see it from that point on. And they get out, and you see Christian, the lion, and it's a big lion now, see them and just slowly walk toward them. Now, I got to be honest. If that were me, I'd be back in the car. I would. I don't know if I'd really have faith that this animal would remember me a year later after it's already been killing everything in the jungle that moved, you know. So, but they stood there, and I loved the faces of these two men because they stood there like smiling with tears coming down their eyes. I thought, well, it's a good way to die. You know, you're happy, you're cheerful, you know, it's love, and so, you know, and you're watching, and there they stood. And then all of a sudden, Christian starts charging them. And they're like, oh. Really? And now it was on YouTube. I knew it wasn't going to be a feasting fest on YouTube. But the Christian got there and jumped on top of one of the men. And he caught him. And he just nuzzled. And these two beings just loved one another. And it was so beautiful. And then the other guy came in, and there was no teeth bared. It was just nothing scary at all. It was just, they just loved and loved and loved and loved. And then, all of a sudden, this other lion comes out, his wife, probably because in some language he said, get out here, you got to meet them. These are my mother and father. Right? These are your in-laws. Look, aren't they pretty? So, I only found out later that there were two gay men, and I thought, wow, that's really fascinating. So the lion comes out, and now the female lion's out there playing, and now Christian takes them, and they follow Christian back to the pride, and there are all these lions and cubs, and they're all kind of just resting, and the two men just walked in and sat right in the middle of all of it. You got to look at the longer YouTube video to see this part, and they just sat there petting their paws and in the middle of Africa, in the midst of all these lions. The reason I bring this up is because there was a beautiful sign across the video, and it said, "Love knows no limits." And that we perceive of love as having limitations. That we perceive that there are things in life that don't deserve our love because they're scary. That we perceive that there are people that don't deserve our love because of how they show up, even when they show up in ways that we're not happy with. I just have to go back to that video and think, no, there is an authenticity, just like Maddie getting up here. There is an authenticity that we are born with. I have a question for us today, which is, where are you limiting your love based on what you consider smart thinking? Where are you holding back from loving because you think it's the smart thing to do? Like it was probably the smart thing to do to stay in the car. Truly. I don't know how many of us would really have gotten out of the car and walked into the jungles in Africa and watched a lion come running at us and actually stood absolutely certain that what was running at me was love. That's what love only means. Are you willing to face the lion, to face the world, and allow it to come at you, and trust that it will always, always embrace you with love, no matter what? That's really what love only means. Here's the thing. We are born to love. We are not born for anything else. We are born to love. This animal was born to love. Even as it was put into a cage, taken out of the cage and loved, it was born to love. We are born perfect. We are absolutely born perfect. And then we begin the journey. You know, it really did, as I was putting this talk together, I thought, wow, it really kind of gives a whole new meaning to the idea of being born again. I mean, think about it. I'm reborn. I'm born again every time I decide to love. Now, when I hear born again, I get a little tingle in the back of my neck, and I think of something else. Born again meaning to accept Jesus as my personal Savior. But I don't accept Jesus as my personal Savior. I accept Jesus as my personal mentor. Someone who showed me the way, showed me the path, showed me that it was all about love. A man who could be put on a cross, crucified, almost no life left in him, and turn and say, forgive them. They just don't know. And he said, what they do I would say they just don't know who they are. And I think really that's what he meant. Emmett Fox said, if you could only love enough, you would be the most powerful person in the world. If you could only love enough, you would be the most powerful person in the world. I give away my power every time I forget to come from love. Every time I go unconscious, I give away my power. So I'm going to bring Maddie back up here for 1 second. Maddie? So Maddie, I have a question for you, and she doesn't know this. I haven't prepped her on this. I just asked her if I could ask her a question. And she said, sort of yes. Have that. So I'm just going to ask you to tell me what you think the word love means.
I think it means that each one of us is who we are, and it's what we were meant to be and how we are supposed to be and why. So I think it means that we are always going to be kept safe.
Do you want me to ask you too? Come up. Come tell us. Your children are not shy. Come on up. You can tell us too. That was a very smart, esoteric answer.
I don't really know.
What is love? Tell us what love is. What did you just write over there?
Beautiful.
Is love beautiful?
Uh-huh.
What else is love? Who do you love? That would be her sister, her mother, her father. Do you love yourself? Yeah? A lot?
Yeah.
Do you like yourself?
Yeah.
What do you like about yourself?
You like your hair, don't you?
I love your haircut. What do you like about yourself?
I like my voice,
We all like your voice, yes?
my clothes, my personality.
Okay, good. What would you consider your personality? What kind of personality do you have?
Shy but outgoing at the same time.
Shy but outgoing at the same time. So really, you just know who to be in whatever moment comes forward, right? That's just perfect, isn't it? It's perfection. So would love be perfection?
Yeah.
Okay. One more question for both of you. Tell me what you think God is.
Well, God is all of us. It's basically what we are. It's like, yeah, it's ourselves. It's everything.
It's everything, so it must be you. Is that what you're saying? Tell it again. Say it again.
He made our personalities.
Okay. God made your personalities.
He made the whole world. He's,
Do you still see God as a he?
well,
That's okay. No, I really want the honest answer. Could God maybe be a she?
yeah,
Could God be her?
yes.
She's really godlike, isn't she? Okay, good. Any other thoughts on God?
He's our savior. He helps us in any kind of way possible. He's also a good listener.
That's
Yeah.
great. Good. Please say thank you to these lovely ladies. So here's why I did that. First of all, because I wanted to know what they'd say. Did you notice kind of there's no reluctance really to say what they believe, is there? They kind of just tell you what it is. Children just tell you. At a certain age, children are still at their factory settings. Truly, they are still at their factory settings. So they're going to just tell you what they think. Your children just tell you what they think. The thing is that eventually all of our children will think things that they've heard and then step into a world where they have to decide to make choices on their own and to think their own way. I loved the answers that those two both just gave. Even the idea that God is our Savior. Because you know what? While that may sound a little Christian, let's not forget that Science of Mind was written by a Christian minister called Ernest Holmes. and Mary Baker Eddy and all these people were Christian ministers, and that's where they came from. It's just understanding the idea that as God is my Savior, that means that there is a part of me that when I go to it, I'm saved from having to live a life of anything that I don't want to live. That's the case. That's when I see Jesus as my Savior, when I see this philosophy as my Savior. This philosophy has saved my butt so many times. How many of you can honestly say that this teaching has saved their butt? And every other part of Doug LeBeau. It's true. So we can agree with everything. This is the end of their month 2 in studying Buddhism, and the rest of this year they're studying other religions. It is imperative that we get away from all the things that hold us back. It is imperative that we stop being afraid of what's coming at us. And we start remembering who we are, like those 2 gentlemen who stood firmly in the truth that what is coming at me is love. Every aspect of your life that is playing itself out right now is love screaming out for you to see the truth. And the minute you see the truth, the ferocious lion stops being the scary creature and turns in to that which embraces you in love. So I implore you to go home and watch that video and remember what we talked about today. And then I ask you to just give some thought this week to everything we talked about this month in love only. And to see if you can find it in your heart to go back to your factory settings. To go back to a time in you, to go back to a place in you where you didn't know what you actually think you know now. Because when I can know nothing and allow Spirit to tell me something, then I am at my factory settings. And now I just get to choose what it is I listen to and what I think about it. You are beautiful in every single way. You are perfect in every single way. Words have no power over you. They can't get you down. So don't let words or beliefs or ideas or situations or conditions get you down. Because who you are is non-negotiable. You are love. So love only. Namaste. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you.